Today we're going to be installing the VESLA billet transmission case. So to do this, we will remove all the screws holding the factory case in. There are a total of 11 on the bottom. You can see them there. There's 2 hiding that hold the motor plate in, and then the rest are holding the transmission. Once the transmission's out, you can get a look at how this thing is assembled and how it's going together and what's going to be replaced. Originally I was wondering if I was going to have to remove that whole spur gear assembly, but you don't have to. There's actually a bolt and a washer right there on top of the lay shaft. Once you remove that bolt, the gear plate comes off, as well as those 3 bolts there, and there's one other bolt that's hiding. This front portion of the hinge pin brace goes away. It's replaced on the billet aluminum one, so you can see you won't be using that hinge pin brace anymore. The nice thing about the aluminum case, you don't have that plastic gusseting. So with that bolt removed on the lay shaft, the gear plate comes off with the lay shaft bolt, and then like I mentioned, those 3 screws up top, and then the 4th screw that is hiding down on the bottom of that front plastic waterfall brace. So that goes there. So you take those 4 bolts out. From here you're going to remove the rear shock tower. The rear shock tower is removed with a total of 6 screws. So those 2 on the bottom and then those 4 up there. Once you do that, the shock tower easily comes off and then the transmission drops down. So one thing that you will notice is that since we're going to be putting this into aluminum, you want to use a blue thread lock. So now that we've got the transmission, we're ready to take this apart. So you remove those bolts, and then you can see there's the massive differential. It's huge just to compare the factory piece with the aluminum side by side. One of the nice things you'll notice how nicely machined this is the bearing is a nice fit. It's a slip fit, but the inner race doesn't spin, so that's how you can tell that something's been machined well. Once we put the differential over, as well as that bearing on the top for the lay shaft, that one I did press in a little bit. I added some grease to the gears, made sure it was nice, put a little bit of blue thread lock on all of these bolts, and tightened that case back together. Made sure everything spun freely. Again, we're reinstalling those bolts. All of these bolts are getting a little bit of blue thread lock. The lay shaft bolt, and then those 4 bolts that hold the gear plate in. I find it's good to loosely install these 4 bolts just so that each one of them is started, and then you can get everything aligned up. And then once they're all in place, then you can snug it down and do your final tightening. From here it's pretty simple. You're just going to reinstall it on the chassis, tighten those 11 bolts again using a little bit of blue thread lock, and you're all set. And just like that, you have installed the billet VESLA case. So this is the first video in a series that we're going to be doing. It's awesome. So follow along for more.